Hello, Raju. How are you?
Hello.
Welcome to the third installment. Is it the third installment now, right?
Yeah, this is
Um,
third episode.
of Midfleet Podcasting. We talked a little bit about the introduction to Midfleet last time, common issues that's happening in the industry right now. Uh, but we wanted to focus a little bit more of what we think will sort of get the agentic world into the transition of where they become more autonomous, right? Because we believe in a future where agents will do things
Midfleet delivering
autonomously.
big change.
And can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Did you hear anything?
Yes. Yeah, there was some video in the background, but that's okay now,
Okay,
right?
perfect, perfect. Wait. I have to cancel it. You know what it is?
Mm.
While we are working on it, I have a setting in Midfleet. So every time Midfleet does any changes, that
For
voice
voice.
comes up
Yes,
constantly.
correct.
So I have to remove it. But you can continue
Yeah.
while this is just raw
But
people.
yeah,
You're
we,
gonna
we
feel
wanted to talk
how
a
it
little
is
bit
when we
about
work.
sort of the second uh, sort of phase of what Midfleet is becoming more and more, right? And where our moat, I think, will become more apparent as companies are traversing into the autonomous world of agentic work. And I think they see the limitations that's happening for them. This week, I spoke to a lot of potential design partners for us and see like where are they struggling. And I think commonly, as we've seen plenty of reports about this, is that sort of coordination helping them these agents work together in these organizations. There's a coordination element, workflows, automations, but the whole idea behind accuracy, drift, and evidence guarantees became quite a big conversation for us. Um, some 80% of the people I was talking about is that the accuracy was an issue, that drift was an issue for sure, and that the agents are generally black boxes that cannot be controlled. Right. That's the sort of biggest conversation I think is happening right now in the world of AI and the world of agentic work. Our core belief is quite simple. Coordination helps agents work together, but governance determines whether that work is allowed to advance or not. And I think that's where the biggest advances could be made for autonomous work. So yeah, but I wanted to give up a little bit for Raju to sort of give some his thoughts, initial thoughts about governance and how that fits into this whole conversation around agentic work. So yeah, like Raju, what's your sort of opening thoughts here?
I've had a conversation with an old colleague who's working for you can call it a native company, organization, startup,
Mm.
and they're popping up more and more. Uh, and when he started, he told me that the challenges that they are having at the moment is they're fully like agent is doing the coding and writing everything, and from the infrastructure, everything is done by agents. And
Yeah.
the engineers at that company is actually just operating as a manager and telling the agents the directive where they want to go. And naturally, he was like, first, he was like, I don't know what's going on. People are doing whatever
Mm.
they want, and this is not how to do it. And, naturally, the conversation went to governance. Because
Mm.
ultimately, I think what will happen is organization will start using these AI agents and
Yeah.
native agentic work. But at the end, it is not about how much output you're getting. It's about the output that you're getting is real. And because they don't in this organization, they don't care about money, right? They got their investment and seed money or whatever. So
Mm.
they don't really care, and they're just putting everything they can. But naturally, after a while, then it becomes okay, but we got a lot of output, right, from the
Right.
agent. But the output that we are getting, how can we validate that that output is actually good and useful?
Mm.
And without governance, I cannot see how you would get an output that you are actually uh, you're expecting. Like, how would you know that that
Mm-hmm.
output is what you want? How do you ensure that without governance, without the agents? Just recently, yesterday, I had a situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I can tell you about that situation and why governance is so important in this sense. I asked one of the agents to do work that was related to the dev environment. And
Mm,
because at this moment, still, some of our environments, we have access, we have let the agents access this environment. And
mm,
this agent actually went into production and started to tampering with the database. And I just asked the agent, like, why did you do this? Why did you go to the production environment? Because the work
mm,
we did has nothing to do with that. So why did you go there?
right.
And from the agent's point of view, he will always have a reason. The agent will
Exactly.
always
And I
give
think
you a reason,
that's
right?
it's
And
it's it's
because
sort of
of
built
this, I
down to be
found this.
helpful.
Right, exactly. He is
Yeah.
trying from his perspective to solve the problem, and however that problem is going to be solved. And also, you know, from my point of view, when I'm working and I'm trying to direct the agents, I can sometimes be vague in my
Yeah. Same here.
conversation. Yeah, because I,
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm just like, he has the context. We have been working for this for a while. And it
Mm,
can be a new session, new thread with a totally new context for an agent that I'm working on. And mostly I just
mm,
work with the operators. And in that sense, if I would have the governance layer in place, then I wouldn't be worried about this. I wouldn't be worried that,
mm,
oh, he's going to go to production because he doesn't have that authority. He doesn't have that in place to be able to access that environment. That's one
mm,
thing. You
mm,
have to lock it down, right? But then even trying, that will send you some information or alert that,
mm.
hey, something is going on and this agent is behaving or misbehaving according to the rules and guardrails that you have set.
Mm.
So that's
And I think this
experience.
twofold. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think I'm like, that's the experience I've had, conversations
Mm,
I've had. And after you have solved the initial problems where you get the agents to do real work and you get really good output, then
mm,
it's about more about these guardrails and governance to have them in place.
yeah.
So you actually can be sure that they're doing what they're supposed to.
I think the problem is twofold now. So, for an engineer in your situation, building stuff, and as the repo grows, as the complexity of workflows grow, um, it won't be just output evidence, sort of, is that good or not? But during the work that it's doing it, has it altered systems without us knowing it? So yeah, auditability, observability is good to see that, but how do we prevent from that happening in the first place? What's your thoughts on sort of the path to completion? How is that guaranteed that that is not destroying or tampering with the systems that it's not supposed to touch? What's your thoughts on this?
Today, to be honest, if you let the agents have access to whatever environment for whatever reason, you cannot be
Yeah.
sure. Like, you don't have
No.
that visibility today, right? Because I'm just imagining, say, in an organization, the new ones that are coming up that have
Mm,
hundreds or thousands of agents. Okay.
mm,
In a situation where you have hundred or thousand of agents and you have teams, right?
mm,
Say you have a team, 10 teams with five members in each team working with agents.
mm.
In this situation, how will you know what agent is doing what?
Exactly.
How do you audit it? How do you ensure that, oh no, every person who is working with the agent is mentally there, in
Mm,
that
mm.
situation, that they understand what's going on? Like, I could catch it because I'm there, but I'm not always there.
No.
Sometimes I just let them go because I trust them. But this is the thing that we're talking about, right? The
Yeah.
trust element, right? This is about the trust. And I trust them enough that I know that they can achieve what I'm asking them for.
Mm,
So if I give them a task, I know that they will achieve that uh, outcome of the task.
Mm,
but I'm not guaranteed or 100% sure that they're not going to do anything else while they're
mm,
doing it, you know? So the path is not always straight. It can be like, the agent can go this. You can try out
mm.
different things. And while it's trying out different things, you're not sure what it did.
Right. So I think, yeah, it's not that makes the whole conversation around autonomy not necessarily a binary one. And sort of autonomy can exist inside defined boundaries, so letting them not go into systems and destroy something. But essentially, we cannot really control the black box of what it will be thinking of doing.
Mm.
What can you do is sort of the next best thing, right? There are tools out there that can tap in to the behavioral elements of it through signals. How successful that is un, 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 unproven at scale at best. Agents can choose how to execute. That's the sort of number one thing that we assume that an agent on Midfleet is able to do, is that they're free to execute, but which boundaries can we apply to them, right? We define a mandate, not just X, Y, Z cannot happen. We define the mandate and we let that infrastructure of rules and policies and whatnot to sort of be built up over time, right? So it's nothing that you just click in and it's a sort of work. So I think there are several layers to it. There is the behavioral side through signals, you can improve that. But there's that layer of where the work is actually happening, right? The agents choose how to execute it. They claim a task and go through it. We define the mandate, i.e., the boundaries and the rules. And policies define the limits of where they should go. And then you can have approval gates, right? Protected sort of consequential actions, with the sort of evidence at the end of the day determines where the outcome is accepted, not just that the code is produced and whatnot, but is it accepted within the path that has been taken to get there? Has there
Yeah.
been any gate blockers? Has there been any access to systems that we can gate through? Can we constrict that? So the work itself is controlled, not the reasoning for the agents. That's what I'm trying to say, that we see as governance, right?
Yeah, I mean the situation when an agent, a specific operator, is working with agents,
Mm,
and sometimes I ask them, I'm like, "Hey, what's going on? Well, what's the situation?" And
mm,
sometimes the agent says, "Yes, they are working on this, but they're currently blocked." Right?
mm,
And then I go into the agent's terminal or I go into the agent's stream and I check. It's not blocked or anything. It's just stopped
no,
for whatever reason. But in the workflow, it says blocked. So the
mm,
operator just see that view and that information, and it with that information, it thinks it's blocked.
mm,
So what I had to do is I had to create a stream output. So in the stream output now, every command or every action that the agent takes, it's streamed.
mm,
So
mm,
the
mm, mm.
operator now or the manager can go in, tap into that stream, and it can read it directly instead of waiting for the workflow to finish or get blocked or anything.
Yep.
It will get the real information. And that same stream can be used then to block any action or block anything that the agent is doing. So that is currently accessible via Midfleet today, and you can
Mm,
use it today. And this is where we are building on the other things in relation to the governance, because the agents, it's there, but how can we ensure that we are reading from an agent point of view? You can read the logs, you can read the
mm.
terminal, and you can read the streams. So with that in mind, you can build the governance around it and ensure that they're not doing what they're not supposed to.
Right. Sort of like we can see what it's logging in terms of work
Mm.
and what it's thinking about doing, but not the intelligence itself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That governance must influence what is allowed to happen next, rather than you know this not the governance should constrain that authority, not constrain the intelligence behind how it's reasoning.
Exactly.
So
Exactly like that. So instead of saying to the agent, you're not allowed to whatever, but you can do that.
mm,
You can put that in. You can
yeah,
also say that when it tries to actually do a command that you're not allowing it, it will be
right.
blocked. That command will not be fired or it will not be executed. It will just block it. Say no,
Right.
the agent will just be, oh, I can't do this.
Mm. How
So
about drift? Like when you have long-running autonomous work rolling through your systems, context changes, agent make local assumptions, responsibility passes on between workers, tools return unexpected results, or just new information changes the objective, right?
yeah,
So, are we, let's not pretend that drift can be completely eliminated. I think the goal is to make it visible, at least,
yeah,
durable,
yeah.
and recoverable, right?
Mm.
So it's not that it's not happening in the first place, but what does happen when it start indicating that it does? How do you see that drift being sort of governable if it's inevitable?
I think when it comes to drift, it will
Mm,
always happen. You
yeah.
cannot ensure that the drift is not going to happen. What you
Right.
can ensure is when it's trying to drift, that it's not able to execute it. So imagine that you have a path that is going to take, right? It is going to that path, but as soon as it goes outside of that path, it will be a term of, you can say, it will be blocked, or it will be a
Mm,
notification that says, hey, you're going outside of the real path that you were supposed to go to.
mm,
And why are you doing it? You can implement different kind of intelligence in that side, because
mm,
in the end, this is the agent. It has a runtime, and we can access the runtime, and we
yeah.
can do whatever we want in that runtime. So
Yeah.
if the agent we see in a stream that is trying to do something, we can inject information and text to that runtime and say, hey, why are you trying to do this? And we
Yeah.
can have a separate conversation there. And then we can
Mm,
say, no, you're not allowed to do this. This is not the way to do it. And then steer it back to the right path. So
mm, mm.
in that term, that is possible because we have full control of the runtime.
So there is a detection to it rather than, okay,
We
let's
can
block it
detect it,
completely.
definitely
Detect
detect it, and then we can tell him to go back to the right path. And this is not the path that we wanted to continue. It is still autonomous. It will still try again, and he
yeah.
will just say, "Hey, no, 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 don't do this. This is not, you know." Because this is the thing with the agents, right? It's still
Mm,
program, and it's still like you can still tap into that runtime and do whatever you want.
right.
And I think sometimes we forget about this, or sometimes we are so just like, oh my god, they can do whatever they want, and they are so autonomous, and they're so super intelligent. It's like, no, not really. You can just tell them not to do this and block them.
Yeah. It works on a smaller scale, but once you have hundreds or thousands or whatever agents that you have in complex workflows, it will be a difficult thing to control and inject, and there's going to be a human cost to it. And we see it with companies now. People who've
Yeah.
rolled up a lot of agentic workflows and streams, they're hiring more engineers, and not just to
Absolutely.
build up, but just to manage the work itself. And we see that problem when we talk to companies every day. It's
I think
is
what's
that
going to happen right now is
right?
we are actually going to need more engineers.
100%. I've always sort of held that agents and AI is not a replacer, but an upplacer. I talked
Yeah.
to a service provider company yesterday doing a lot of these kind of let's replace customer service or marketing agents or whatever it is. And I've always sort of held it that no, it's an extension of us. We should be the providers of judgment. That's why we talk about governance, is that we're not controlling or managing, we're governing. What does
Right.
that mean? We steer the agents towards a certain outcome. We set the rules like we do with our employees, giving them a policy. We don't give them a checklist of exactly how to do things. That's not very efficient.
Exactly.
But you
Yeah.
give them a policy to act within, and you let them reason within that. And as long as the reasoning is controlled and detectable and enforceable, is it's good to go. The thing that I'm sitting with right now is a lot of it about that enforcement of the detection. If
Right.
something is drifting, if something is breaking, how do we enforce it? You talked about sort of the self-healing of a system. right? Where they can try to solve it themselves.
Yeah.
So that's number one control. Like, how do we warn an agent versus cooling it down and try to reattempt it all the way down to a human interaction, right? Before it blocks, before it does this. Like, how does it enforce it and cool it down? That's something we're working at the moment, sort of the gradual release of a blocker, right?
Right.
Where can a blocker be resolved by the agents themselves versus where do we come in? And that's part of the rule system that we're building in at the moment.
Yeah.
Great. No, that's a cool I mean, I can talk about drift for years. But you know, I think one thing that also comes in the conversation about governance itself is that you add a layer. Once you add that layer, does it increase the credit cost that I have? Does it increase um, the lag in responses? And I think for us, at least in my world, is that actually can increase the speed, right? That a good model of governance and policy hierarchies can actually increase the speed
I
of work,
agree. I agree.
right?
And I also agree that with that in mind, you would actually reduce the cost of spending tokens.
Yeah.
Because right now what's going on is that companies and organizations who's really new in this,
Yeah.
they are going bonanza and they're saying, oh, we don't care about the cost. But I promise you, that issue will come up soon.
Yeah.
And exactly as I said for 6 months ago, when I said that loop engineering, that we already did it at that time. So we are looking at something related to this issue with governance and cost. It will be reduced because you're ensuring you're getting the result you want and not
Mm.
just blindly, hoping that the model is going to do what you think it's going to do. And then you have
Right.
to stare it again and ask them again. And, it's going to be iteration and versions. I don't know how many version and iteration before you get what you want. But in our mindset, in from Midfleet's perspective, that's not what we want. Why would I want to just spend resources and tokens unnecessary? Like
It's also a human cost because
it is
you're
at the end, it's always a
you're
human.
getting that control cost. You're involved in non-consequential decisions like, oh, fix back the agents to go back in the right path, and you're going crazy with
Exactly.
the prompts. There's a human
Exactly.
cost to it,
Absolutely.
and
It's a mental capacity cost. It's a lot of things in the mind, and it's context switching, and takes a
yeah,
lot of effort for a human being to be able to understand what the agents are doing at that moment and what is it exactly at that moment the agent is
I
doing
think
at
it's
the
also
moment.
a legacy of companies thinking about what governance means in traditional sense. Because like governance, the more you go out from that sort of the Web 2.0 type of thinking of governance being sort of cybersecurity and all this kind of stuff that may delay a system,
Mm,
but or financial governance or whatever it is that governance means for a company is often associated with like committees, documentation, delays. It's adding structure to a decision to be made. But if you have a good runtime governance, it can have that opposite effect, as we said. Like if it reduces all of these other time lags, like human cost, like the drift of repeating the same problem over and over again
yeah,
without resolution, and then evidence is not met, and then you need to redo things, right? So yeah, I think the safest way to agents to give them more autonomy is to make that authority of work is more explicit. And that's what sort of governance means in that sense, right?
absolutely.
But yeah, um, can we talk about like concrete examples, any work that we're currently doing right now? I'm asking you specifically, and just sort of bring some examples of what this happened for us. We talked a little bit about the touching the wrong repos and whatnot, but do we have any successful examples where we block that drift in our own build? Do you have any
So
questions?
I started with a hypothesis that is this even possible to block, and I tested it with like a command. And so the idea is that you're gonna have a policy enforcement in the workflow, And that policy you can define however you want. It can be paths, it can be commands, it can be repositories, it can be anything actually that you want. So in that policy, when you have defined it, it will trigger and it will check and it will just lock it.
Mm.
So that's the work that we are currently doing. And I know that you are also working on a lot of things around the governance
Yeah.
place. But
It's yeah.
to be able to ensure all of this is going to be actually working, also we had to put down the foundation layer. And the foundation layer is now done.
Yeah.
It's ready. It is public, and you can use it. So on top of that, we will have this new layer that is the
Mm.
enforcement and the governance and the policy. I'm looking forward to how that will look. I'm not 100% sure
Mm.
myself. It will show up while we are working, and we will try different scenarios and create war scenarios to see what's possible and what's not possible. So yeah, it's ongoing work.
Yeah. No, what I'm sort of working on is that enforcement in degrees, right? From warning to cooling down, blocking, sort of in different degrees where you can set it, right?
Yeah.
But the enforcement layer, we're building it up also gradually because we also have to contend with the issue: am I over governing things?
Right.
And
Exactly. Right.
exactly. So, uh, in the sense that you try to govern an outcome, not every single step. That's workflow type of thinking. You automation type of thinking. You need to think about, well, what is autonomy in the first place? It's
Mhm.
sort of boundary of reasoning, boundary of that work to be completed within sort of set of rules, right? Um, a good example of this, if I'm going into N8M, right? I can connect agents. They are allowed to do certain automated sequences in a certain way,
Yeah.
right? What Midfleet thinks about governance or that automation is that no, the agents are allowed to communicate with each other. That's the strength. How do they
Absolutely.
reason something together in order to achieve something? So we think about that, as we said, through the rules and whatnot, but it's not sequenced in a certain way.
No,
When you
it's
enter Midfleet
absolutely not
today, it's
sequenced. Yeah, it's
exactly. So
absolutely not sequenced.
yeah. So it's agents speaking to each other, following a certain policy. And if they try to attempt to do something else, this is kind of where we want to enforce some form of that they keep themselves to our outcome, boundaries, and that evidence, right? Not every reasoning step. So agents should retain that freedom of how they execute within that mandate, in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah,
It is more, I would say the governance and guardrails and enforcement is more like you shouldn't just put so much in so that the agent is not exactly as you said. It's not like, hey, I can't work in this environment. It's going to be the same situation for a developer even.
yeah,
So I would say, imagine a developer doing development work. That's how you're gonna look at the same thing. But
mm,
the difference is put guardrails and policies where I will say that the agent is absolutely not allowed to do. That's how
yeah,
you're gonna think about it, right?
mm,
This is this outcome I absolutely don't want. I don't
yeah,
want this to happen. What is the worst scenario, right? And then give it some room to do its own work.
right. That is very true. I think we're gonna produce some videos a little bit more about demonstrating how it looks like live at some point now,
Yeah,
just to show an example of a couple of GitHub issues running through our system. We'll post that separately, but just as a closing for us, gotta leave in a moment here. Um, my closing thought is that the future is not necessarily agents operating without control. it's hu- it's not also like humans approving every action. It's that autonomous execution. It happens inside enforceable authority. It should not mean the absence of control. It's if done properly, control is what allows autonomy to really, really scale. So that's my closing argument. Anything from your end, Raju?
yeah. So I would say either you have to be the person who's gonna let the agents just have it. They can do whatever they want. Or you're gonna be the one that is gonna, no, I have to approve everything,
Yeah.
right? So what is the middle ground? What is the way to actually work where you can find uh, a pleasant way to work with the agent where you can trust them? I would say that's what we are trying to achieve.
100%.
Yeah. Thanks for
Okay,
the chit chat,
everyone.
man. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank
Okay,
you
I'll
to
see
the
you next
audience.
time.
See you next time. And by the way,
Bye.
if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the
Please
channel.
subscribe
It will help us a lot. And like it if you got some valuable information. See you on the
and
next
get in
episode, then, bro.
touch. And get in touch if you
Yeah,
need
get in
any
touch.
setup for your agents. Midfleet.ai is available for self-serve as well. Go ahead and sign up and get your agents on board.
Awesome. Bye bye.
Super. Bye-bye.